The conduct of the plumbers was so clearly illegal that it provoked serious questions for the senators, all of whom were lawyers.
Now, if the president could authorize a covert break-in, and you don't know exactly where that power would be limited, you don't think it could include murder or other crimes beyond covert break-ins, do you?
Oh, I don't know where the line is, Senator.
Well, where is the check on the chief executive's inherent power as to where that power begins and ends? Well, you're a lawyer, and I understand you're a good one.
Well, I'm certainly not a constitutional lawyer, Senator.
Well, you remember when we were in law school, we studied a famous principle of law that came from England and also is well known in this country, that no matter how humble a man's cottage is, that even the King of England can't enter without his consent.
I'm afraid that's been considerably eroded over the years, hasn't it?
Down in my country, we still think it's a pretty legitimate principle of law.
I was made aware of the President's strong feelings about even the smallest of them when the President happened to look out the window of the residence of the White House and saw a lone man with a large 10-foot sign stretched out in front of Lafayette Park. Mr. Higbee called me to his office to tell me that the President's displeasure with the sign in the park, and told me that Mr. Haldeman had said that the sign had to come down.
An order direct from the President's office.
Dwight Chapin, who said he was going to get some thugs to remove the man from Lafayette Park. He said it would take him a few hours to get them, but they could do the job.
Jeb Magruder was second in command on the committee to re-elect the President.
To all of us who had worked in the White House, there was that feeling of resentment and of frustration at being able to deal with issues on a legal basis.
There are countless cliches that come to mind that I could use to try to describe that state of mind or that attitude, fighting fire with fire, two wrongs don't make a right, and all the rest, but they all seem inadequate.
Well, they certainly were. And I have no justification for them, nor will I make any today. I fully accept the responsibility of having made an absolute disastrous decision, or at least participated. I didn't make the decision, but certainly participated in it.
A decision, really, that is going to affect history that was made in almost a casual way.
Yes, sir.
Last June 17, while I was in Florida trying to get a few days' rest after my visit to Moscow, I first learned from news reports of the Watergate break-in. I was appalled at this senseless, illegal action. And I was shocked to learn that employees of the re-election committee were apparently among those guilty. I immediately ordered an investigation by appropriate government authorities. As the investigations went forward, I repeatedly asked those conducting the investigation whether there was any reason to believe that members of my administration were in any way involved. I received repeated assurances that there were not.
But according to testimony of Dean, Magruder, and others, White House planning for illegal operations had been going on for a long time. Gordon Liddy moved from the White House plumbers to the committee to re-elect the President. There he proposed an extraordinary plan in various forms for approval by the head of the committee, John Mitchell.
I met Magruder and Liddy at Mitchell's office. Liddy had a series of charts or diagrams which he placed on an easel, and the presentation by Liddy began.
You say that the charts dealt with various projects and they had code names on them. Could you give us, to your best recollection, what some of these projects were?
There was, of course, the projects including wiretapping, electronic surveillance, and photography. There were projects relating to the abduction of individuals, particularly members of radical groups. We were concerned about the convention in San Diego. Mr. Liddy had a plan where the leaders would be abducted and detained in a place like Mexico, and that they would then be returned to this country at the end of the convention. He he had another plan which would have used women as agents to work with members of the Democratic National Committee.
Did this involve the use of a yacht in Miami?
He envisioned renting a yacht in Miami and having it set up for sound and photographs.
And what would the women be doing at that time?
I really could only estimate, but...
Well, based on his project, as your recollection,
well,
what did he indicate in this?
They would have been, I think you could consider them call girls.
Magruder had scheduled another meeting in Mr. Mitchell's office on a revised intelligence plan. I arrived at the meeting very late, and when I came in, Liddy was presenting a scaled-down version of his earlier plan. I listened for a few minutes and decided I had to inject myself into the discussions. Mr. Mitchell, I felt, was being put on the spot. The only polite way I thought I could end the discussion was to inject that these discussions could not go on in the office of the Attorney General of the United States, and the meeting should terminate immediately.
Dean was testifying that he had blown the whistle on a conspiracy going on inside the Justice Department, right in the office of the Attorney General, the highest legal officer in the government. John Mitchell was not only Attorney General, the guardian of the laws, he also happened to be Richard Nixon's man, the campaign director who masterminded the Nixon election. He was devoted to the president's interests, personal and political. If responsibility for the break-in extended as high as John Mitchell, it would be reaching perilously close to the White House and to the president himself.
Well, Mr. Mitchell, since you were the Attorney General of the United States, why didn't you throw Mr. Liddy out of your office?
Well, I think Mr. Dash, in hindsight, I not only should have thrown him out of the office, I should have thrown him out of the window.
Well, since you did neither, why didn't you at least recommend that Mr. Liddy be fired from his responsible position at the committee, since obviously he was presenting to you an irresponsible program?
Well, I, in hindsight, probably should have done that too, but the belief that I had at the time was in turning the matter off, we would get back to the purpose that was originally intended.
Mitchell denied under oath that he had approved any version of the plan, but his former deputy, Magruder, had already testified under oath that Mitchell had.